The man in the corner has not moved since he sat down. Nobody else has noticed. The restaurant is full the way it gets on Tuesday evenings, after-work crowd stacking up, kitchen running behind, servers moving faster and looking at less. Nobody has time to notice a man who orders water and takes a corner table and then simply stops. Sits. Watches. Nia notices. She notices the way she notices everything. She files under "not my problem," quickly, completely, and then set aside. She has a section to run and a body that has been wrong all day and a piece of paper folded in her coat pocket in the back hallway that she has not looked at since the parking lot, and she intends to keep it that way until the shift is done. The paper says 16 weeks. She had gone into the clinic for the nausea. 3 weeks of it, low and persistent, the kind that does not announce itself dramatically but simply takes up residence. She had expected iron levels. She had sat in the exam room while the doctor talked, and at some point the words stopped arriving in the right order, and she had taken the printout with both hands and walked to her car and sat in the parking lot for 19 minutes without starting the engine. Drop a comment with your city below. I want to see how far Nia's story travels tonight. Hit that like and subscribe button and let's roll. She is 40 minutes late when she arrives. The manager, Sellers, takes her apology the way he takes everything, quietly, for the record. She ties her apron in the back hallway and walks onto the floor with her surface intact, because her surface has not failed her yet, not in 5 years of practice keeping it in place. The dining room runs at its usual noise. She takes table 4. She takes table 6. She moves through her section with the economy of someone who has learned to conserve everything. Attention, energy, the space she takes up in a room. Table 9 arrives at 6:45. She crosses toward them. In the corner, the man with the water sets his glass down with a precision that has nothing to do with the glass. His eyes track her across the floor. He does not look away when she reaches the table. He does not look away at all. She does not see him watching. She will. On any other day she lets it go. She has a system. She built it over years of working floors like this one, in rooms like this one, where a certain kind of person sits down and immediately begins testing the edges of what they can take. The system is simple: absorb, redirect, move on. Do not give the exchange more weight than it deserves. Do not let it land. The system works because she has enough distance from her own day to run it. Today she does not have that distance. Today her day is pressing against everything from the inside. Table 9 is 4 men. The one by the window, wide through the shoulders, the kind of easy that comes from never having had to negotiate his own presence in a room, looks up when she introduces herself, and then back at his friend before she finishes, the way you look away from a screen when an ad comes on. Functional. Not worth the full attention. She asks for drink orders. He finishes his sentence to his friend first. Then he orders. She writes. She brings the drinks. She reads the food order back and he stops her halfway through and says she has the preparation wrong. She has not. She reads it again from the pad, the exact words she wrote. He tilts his head and says it again differently, slower, with the patient precision of someone who has decided the obstacle is comprehension. Troy used to do that. Not the content. Troy was never in a restaurant making a point about a steak. But the specific machinery of it. The slowing down of the words. The slight increase in volume that was never loud enough to name. The way it settled into the space between them like a weight being transferred, and she was supposed to accept the weight without acknowledging it was there. She had learned to. She had gotten very good at it. 7 months out of that apartment, and she is still fluent in that particular language, still knows how to find the angle that ends the loop without anyone having to acknowledge the loop existed. What she cannot do tonight, not with 16 weeks sitting in her chest like a stone she is still learning the weight of, is pretend the weight is not there. This is what 5 years with Troy cost her. Not just the visible things, the flinching, the hypervigilance, the way she still checks the lock twice before she sleeps. The deeper cost was subtler. She had spent so long managing his world that she had stopped tracking her own body, stopped listening to what it was telling her, stopped treating its signals as information worth acting on. She had been so focused on surviving the present tense of that relationship that her own interior had gone quiet, and the quiet had become habit, and the habit had outlasted him. 7 months clean of him, and her body is still talking. She just missed what it was saying for 4 of them. The second comment comes with the food. Something about the side dish being wrong. She sets it down in its correct position and says nothing. She goes back to the service station. She stands for a moment facing the wall, running the count, 4 tables, all running, nothing behind. She is working. Everything outside this building will still be there at 10 o'clock, waiting exactly where she left it. That is the only fact that matters right now. She picks up her pad and goes back out. Across the room, the man in the corner is no longer watching the door. He is watching table 9. The third comment is where she stops. She comes back to table 9 with the dessert menu and Garrett is talking. She learns his name from the way one of the others uses it, casually, the way you use a name when you are used to a person's particular gravity pulling everything toward it. He stops mid-sentence when she arrives and gives her the specific attention of someone who has been patient for a long time and has decided patience is done. "Can I ask you something?" he says. She holds the menus. "Is this," he gestures at her, at the space she occupies, "just how you are? Or is it specifically us? I can leave the dessert menu and come back," she says. "I'm asking a real question." He leans back. Comfortable. In no hurry. "Because from where I'm sitting it feels like we've done something to offend you, and I genuinely cannot figure out what." The other 3 are distributed across their phones and their glasses and the careful nowhere of men who know something is happening and have chosen not to be any part of it. She looks at Garrett. She has a response she gives in these situations. Professional, clean, closes the door without noise. She has given it 100 times. It requires almost no thought. She does not give it. "You haven't offended me," she says. "You've just made the last 40 minutes harder than they needed to be. There's a difference." Something moves in Garrett's face. Not anger, recalibration. The look of a man who expected a door to stay shut and is now deciding what to do with the fact that it opened. "Harder how?" he says. She holds his gaze for a moment. The honest answer is 19 minutes in a parking lot, and a number she cannot stop hearing and a body that kept a secret from her for 4 months. The honest answer is not his to have. She sets the dessert menus on the table. "I'll be back in a few minutes." She turns to go. The chair scrapes back. Not Garrett, the youngest one, quiet all night, carrying the particular restlessness of someone waiting for a moment to mean something. He is on his feet before she fully processes the sound, and his arm comes up, not at her, not threatening, just a gesture, a young man making a point with his body the way young men do when words feel like not enough. But the chair scraped back first. And the arm came up. And 5 years of her nervous system knowing exactly what those 2 things in that exact sequence mean fires before her mind has time to sort the context. She steps back. Her arm comes up. She catches it. She stands straight. 1 second. Done. But the room caught it. And in the far corner, a man who has been still since he arrived is already on his feet. A flinch tells the truth faster than language ever could. It carries no explanation, no context, no intent. It just shows, plainly and completely, what a body has learned to expect from the world. And there are people who can read that, not because they studied it, but because they grew up watching someone they loved speak it fluently, every day for years. His name is Ray Kong. He comes to this restaurant on Tuesday evenings because it is one of 11 places in the city where he can sit without managing the room. Ferrante, who owns this place, has a debt in its 9th year that manifests as a permanently available corner table and a standing instruction to the staff. The man who takes it is not to be approached unless he signals. He has not signaled tonight. He sits with his water and watches the room with the attention that does not look like attention, posture relaxed, eyes moving without appearing to move, the practiced stillness of someone who learned early that being seen costs more than it returns. The city knows Ray Kong the way it knows certain weather, not by announcement but by what happens in the hours before the storm. He operates in the spaces the city's official systems have decided are not worth the cost of entering. 14 years he has been in those spaces, building something that does not appear on any document but that the city's actual mechanics run along, the way water finds channels nobody digs deliberately. He is the most dangerous man in any room he enters. He has never seen a reason to pretend otherwise. He is also the reason the women's shelter on Delacroix Street has not had a single funding interruption in 6 years. He is the reason a landlord named Cruz reversed an entire eviction campaign in the Western District in 1 week, not through courts, not through pressure campaigns, but through a single visit from a man who sat across a desk and described, in very quiet and very specific language, what the alternative looked like. Ray does not experience these as contradictions. They are the same principle in different directions. He has reach. He has decided what it is for. He has been watching Table 9 since the second comment. He reads escalations automatically, the pattern recognition running below conscious thought, the analysis complete before he is aware he ran it. He knows where this table is going. He has stayed in his chair because she is handling it, and inserting himself into something a person is managing on their own is its own kind of disrespect. Then the chair scrapes. The arm comes up. She steps back, 1 step, arm rising, caught in under a second. He knows that catch. He has known it since he was 9 years old, watching his mother in the kitchen of the house he grew up in. Suni. She was a woman who had learned to make herself small in doorways, who flinched at sounds that had nothing in them, whose body had developed a fluency in bracing that her mind had stopped noticing. He knows that catch. His mother's name is Suni. She is 63 years old and she lives in a quiet apartment in another city that Ray found and arranged and pays for, and she has been there for 9 years, and she is, by her own account, in the careful language of someone still learning to mean it, all right. She was not always all right. For 11 years she was a woman who flinched at sounds, who made herself small in doorways, who caught herself, fast and practiced, every time a hand moved too quickly or a voice changed register. Ray watched her do it from the time he was old enough to understand what he was watching, which was 9, and understood it completely by the time he was 13, standing in the doorway of the kitchen, watching, with the specific clarity that arrives in the worst moments and does not soften anything, only makes it precise. He was not able to do anything about it then. It took years after that, years of accumulating the kind of reach that would make moving her mean something permanent, not just a change of address but a guarantee that the address would hold, before he could act in a way that would last. He is not 13. He is not standing in a doorway. He moves. He does not hurry. This is what the room registers first, not that he is moving, but how. He crosses from the corner to Table 9 at the pace of a man who has already decided how this ends, and sees no reason to perform urgency about it. The certainty is in the pace. The pace is the statement. He stops at the edge of the table. The young man is still half standing, arm extended, expression caught between the point he was making and the realization that something in the room has shifted in a way he does not yet have language for. That window lasts about 2 seconds. Ray does not fill it with words. He stands in the space between the outstretched arm and Nia, close enough that the arm has nowhere to go without first acknowledging him, and he looks at the young man with an expression that contains no heat, no performance, nothing that needs a response. The specific stillness of someone for whom this is not an emotional event. Sit, he says. The word lands in the silence the way a key turns in a lock, without drama, without force, with only the sound of something engaging that was designed to engage. The young man sits. He does it the way people comply when the decision has been made for them before they made it, quickly, without ceremony, rearranging himself as though he had been intending to sit anyway, and this was simply the moment. Garrett has stopped leaning. His hands are flat on the table. He is studying the tablecloth with the focused attention of a man who has decided, rapidly and completely, to become uninteresting. The other two are very still. The nearest table has gone quiet. The whole corner of the room is holding something, not breath exactly, but the particular suspension that follows the arrival of a thing everyone felt but nobody named. Real authority doesn't raise its voice. It removes options. It arrives, and the room rearranges itself, and nobody is asked whether they consent to the rearranging. Ray looks at Nia. She has not moved. Not toward him, not back, not to the side. She stands exactly where she was when the chair scraped, chin level, dessert menus still in her left hand. She is watching him with the full attention of someone who is still deciding what they are looking at. Not grateful. Not shaken. Not performing anything at all. Just looking. Measuring. You all right? He says. The question carries no softness. It is not an offering. It is the kind of question that expects an accurate answer and will know if it does not get one. She looks at him for a moment. Something crosses her expression, not gratitude, not relief, something less nameable than either, something that belongs to the specific experience of being seen by someone who was not supposed to be looking. Yeah, she says. He nods once. Turns. Walks back to the corner. The room exhales, a collective loosening, conversations resuming in stages, silverware finding plates again, the ordinary noise of a Tuesday evening reclaiming the space that something else briefly occupied. Table 9 pays in 6 minutes. They leave without looking at anything except the exit. The manager materializes at Nia's section, says something about the check being handled, asks if she needs anything. She says no. He moves on. She stands at the service station. The number has not changed. She knows this the way she knows the weight of her own coat, not by checking, just by carrying it. 4 tables still running. A drive home she will make alone. Everything outside this building exactly where she left it. She looks across the room. The corner table is still occupied. He has not ordered food. He has not looked at his phone. He has not signaled to anyone or done anything other than return to his water and his stillness, the same stillness he arrived with, as though the last 10 minutes were a parenthesis he has now closed. He is still watching. Not the room. Not the door. Not the space between. Her. She is almost at the exit when she realizes she has not looked at the corner since she cleared her last table. She had been tracking it the whole second half of the shift, the way you track something you have decided not to look at, which means you are always looking at it. Now, coat over one arm, bag on her shoulder, she stops at the edge of the dining room and looks. He is still there. Not looking at the door. Not looking at his phone. Sitting with his water in the same quality of stillness he arrived with, the way a building is still, not empty, not waiting, just present in a way that does not require acknowledgement. The moment after danger passes is when people show you who they are. The performance comes down. The thing underneath surfaces. She has watched men become very different versions of themselves in the 10 minutes after a situation resolves. They become generous with the relief, or they remember what they wanted before the situation interrupted them and go back to wanting it. She does not know which kind Ray Kong is. She goes to find out. She stops at the edge of his table. Not close. No order pad. Just standing, one foot already angled toward the exit. We're closing the kitchen, she says. He looks up. I know. She waits. He does not add anything. The space between them is a held thing, neither open nor closed. Then what are you still doing here? She says. He considers the question with the patience of someone who has decided not to answer things faster than they deserve. Making sure you got out of your shift all right, he says. She looks at him for a long moment. The honest response is that she has been getting out of shifts all right on her own for 7 months and 29 years before that. That response is sitting right there, available. She does not give it. Because the other honest thing, the one she is less comfortable with, is that nobody has said that to her in a long time. Not the performance of it, not the version that comes with conditions attached. The plain, undecorated version. Making sure you got out all right. I don't know your name, she says. Ray, he says. Nia, she says. He nods. Not like an acknowledgement, like a confirmation of something he was already waiting to confirm. She shifts her bag. Good night, Ray. She walks out. She does not slow. She does not look back. She pushes through the door into the night air and lets it close behind her, and that is a decision she makes deliberately, because there is a version of this evening where she stands in doorways waiting to see what happens next, and she has already spent 5 years being that version of herself. Behind her, in the corner, Ray sits for another few minutes. He finishes his water. He takes out his phone. The person on the other end answers before the second ring. Table 9 from tonight, Ray says. 4 men. Find out who they are. Where they work. Who they answer to. He does not explain why. He sets the phone down. He looks at the door she walked through. He does not leave for another 10 minutes. She comes back on Thursday. This is not a decision she examines. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 months, the schedule does not change because of what happened on a Tuesday. She ties her apron in the back hallway and walks onto the floor and does not think about the corner. The corner is empty. She takes her section. She runs the first 2 hours without incident, kitchen on time, room manageable, her body doing the low-grade negotiation with itself that it has been running all week. The nausea has shifted. It is less about food now and more about the specific exhaustion of processing something large in the background of an ordinary life. She is in the middle of a dessert run when the room adjusts. Not dramatically. That specific sequence, one person noticing, then the next, conversations recalibrating their volume without anyone deciding to do it. She finishes delivering the desserts. She says the right things to the table. She collects the empty plates. She turns. The corner is occupied. Ray has his water. He has the stillness. His eyes are already on her, which means he was watching before she turned, which means she was right not to turn immediately, which is a thought she files and moves past. Being helped is one thing. Being understood is another. She knows the difference because she has had years of the first and almost none of the second, and they do not feel the same anywhere in the body. She finishes her current round. She takes 2 more orders. She does her job because her job does not change based on who is sitting in the corner. At 8:15 she crosses to the corner table without her pad. You came back, she says. You work Thursdays, he says. She pulls out the chair across from him and sits down. Something moves in his expression, not much, just the specific adjustment of a man who had prepared for several versions of this moment, and is recalibrating toward the one that actually arrived. He settles back into the stillness. But she caught the adjustment. You saw something on Tuesday, she says. Something specific. I want to know what it was. Why? He says. Because I spent 5 years with a man who told me my own reactions were wrong, she says. And I'm not going to sit here wondering what you saw and decide it's not my business. It's specifically my business. So tell me. The room carries on around them. A table near the window laughs at something. The kitchen fires an order. All of it very far away. Ray sets his glass down. You caught yourself, he says. The step back, the arm, under a second. That kind of catch doesn't come from one bad night. It comes from years of learning to correct yourself before anyone notices. She holds his gaze. That's what I saw, he says. Someone who had learned to make the evidence disappear. The word evidence lands in a specific place. Not because it is clinical, because it is accurate. She had spent 5 years doing exactly that. Disappearing evidence. She had not thought to call it that until now. You recognized it, she says. Yes, he says. She wants to ask from where. From whom? The question is right there. She does not ask it tonight. Some things need more than one conversation to earn. She stands. 3 tables still running, 90 minutes left. Same time Tuesday? She says. Something moves across his face, not a smile, but the territory one would occupy if he were the kind of person who smiled in restaurants at women he had known for 4 days. Same time Tuesday, he says. She goes back to her section. She picks up her pad. She does not glance at the corner again. She got what she came for tonight. The rest can wait. He is there when she arrives. Sellers mentions it before she has finished tying her apron. The corner table has been occupied since 6. The man declined a different section. He has asked for nothing except water and to be left alone, and Sellers delivers this in the tone he uses for all information adjacent to the corner table, which is the tone of a man who has decided not to have opinions about things he cannot change. It is 45 minutes before the dinner service begins. Nia walks onto the floor. Ray has his phone face down on the table and his water and the stillness, and he looks up when she enters the section the way he always looks up, before she has fully crossed to him, before she has made any particular motion in his direction, as though some part of his attention is always calibrated to the specific frequency of her moving through a room. She sits across from him without asking. "You were early," she says. "I had time," he says. Nobody has 45 minutes in a restaurant that hasn't opened yet unless they chose to be there. He holds her gaze. "Then I chose." The kitchen runs its pre-service noise behind them. The dining room sits in that particular quality of a space becoming what it is about to be, chairs being set, a server running a cloth across the bar, the low sound of the ventilation system doing its work. "Last Thursday," she says. "You said you recognized what you saw. I didn't ask you from where." He is quiet for a moment, not deciding whether to answer, deciding how much of an accurate answer to give. "My mother," he says. She waits. "She was married to my father for 11 years, he says. "He was not a good man. Not in the way that phrase gets softened when people use it, not difficult, not complicated. Not good. There is a difference." A pause. "I watched her make that same catch you made. Every time a door closed too fast, every time someone raised a hand to reach for something on a high shelf, her whole body would brace and then correct before the moment finished. I watched her do it for years before I had language for it. And for a few more years after I had the language before I had the means to do anything." "What did you do?" Nia says. "When you had the means?" "I moved her," he says. "She has an apartment in another city. She has been there for 9 years. He looks at his water. "She grows things now. On the windowsill. Herbs, mostly. She sends me photographs of them." A pause. "She asked me once if what I do keeps me safe. I told her mostly. She said that was enough for her." The herb photographs land somewhere specific in Nia's chest. Not the drama of it, the smallness of it. A woman who spent 11 years flinching now sending her son photographs of mint and basil on a windowsill. The specific scale of what recovery looks like when it is real. She looks at Ray. "Troy went to jail 7 months ago," she says. "I'm the one who reported it. It took me a long time to do it." "I know," he says. She looks at him. "You looked him up?" "After Tuesday," he says. Not an apology. Not a defense. She takes that in. He has confirmed he looked into Troy, into his record, his case, the timeline. That is one thing. She turns it over, checking for the edge of it. "What do you know about the baby?" she says directly. He meets her eyes. "I know you're pregnant. I don't know anything beyond that, and I wasn't going to ask." Something releases in her chest that she had not known she was holding. The version of this where he had gone further, where his reach had extended into the parts of her life she had not offered, that version would have required a different conversation. This version is the one she can work with. "The baby isn't his," she says. "I want that to be clear." "Then it's clear," he says. No follow-up. No question about whose it is. The information is received and set down, exactly as she gave it. Some things cost a person without ever being visible to anyone else. She has learned to recognize when someone is absorbing a weight quietly. He is doing it now, not about the baby, but about all of it. The 5 years. The reporting. The 7 months alone. Taking it in without making her watch him process it. I have to start my section, she says. I know, he says. She picks up her pad. She stands. She looks at him one more time. This man who sends his mother to safe cities and funds shelters no one knows are his and looked up her ex-boyfriend after a Tuesday dinner service and is now sitting with the information about her baby without pulling at it. Stay, she says. Through the service. Not a question. Not decorated. He stays. The call comes on a Wednesday. Nia is at her kitchen table with a prenatal vitamin and a glass of water when her phone lights up with a number she does not recognize. Is this Nia Calloway? Yes. Detective Reeves, District Attorney's Office. We're contacting you regarding Troy Mercer. He's filed a motion to have the restraining order reviewed. His attorney is arguing the original report contained inconsistencies. She sets the vitamin down. What inconsistencies? We'd like to discuss this in person. Can you come in tomorrow morning? She says yes. She hangs up. She sits with the phone face down on the table, and the kitchen holding its breath around her. Then she picks it back up and calls the number she added 9 days ago. Ray answers before the second ring. Nia. Troy's lawyer filed a motion, she says. DA wants me in tomorrow. They're saying the report had inconsistencies. A pause. Brief. Not uncertainty, a calculation finishing. Where are you? He says. Home. I'll be there. You don't. I know, he says. 20 minutes. He is there in 15. She buzzes him up. He comes through the door and takes in the kitchen table, the vitamin, the water, the list, and says nothing about any of it. She looks at him standing in her doorway and registers, one beat behind everything else, that she did not give him this address. She files it. Not tonight. Tonight there is only one thing that matters and it is not that. He sits across from her. Tell me exactly what Reeves said. She tells him. He listens. No interruptions. Troy's lawyer is running a delay play, he says. They're trying to drag the timeline past the hearing date so the restraining order lapses on a technicality. The inconsistencies claim is the mechanism. It buys them time and puts you on defense. How do you know that? Because I know what good legal strategy looks like, he says. And I know Troy Mercer doesn't have a lawyer good enough to find actual inconsistencies in a report that was accurate. She looks at him across the table. You know what lawyer he has? Yes. She holds that for a moment. This is what his reach looks like up close, not dramatic, not announced, just present. He knows things. He has been knowing things since Tuesday night in the restaurant, and the question she has been not asking is where the boundary of it is. How far in have you gone? She says. Into my life. I need to know. He looks at her directly. Troy's record. His case file. His current legal representation. Nothing about you beyond what connects to him. That's it. That's it, he says. You're not a problem I'm solving. I was making sure he wasn't a door you'd left unlocked without knowing. The kitchen is very quiet. Outside, the city runs its ordinary Wednesday night noise, traffic, someone's music 2 floors up, the building settling. She breathes. I'm scared, she says. Just that. Flat and plain. Ray looks at her. Something in his face moves, small, specific, the shift of a man who does not perform concern but is feeling something adjacent to it. You did everything you were supposed to do, he says. You told the truth. You documented it. You reported it. He doesn't get to rewrite that. His lawyer is trying to. His lawyer is going to have a harder week than he's expecting, Ray says. And the motion is going to fail. You don't know that. No, he says. But I know what happens when men who hurt people try to use systems to get back into proximity with them. The system has gaps. He holds her gaze. I don't. She looks at him for a long moment. She thinks about Suni growing herbs on a windowsill 9 years into safety. She thinks about 19 minutes in a parking lot. She thinks about what it has cost her to refuse help, the specific tax of doing every hard thing alone because she stopped believing help was something real people offered without a price attached. Okay, she says. One word. Everything she is not saying lives around it. Ray nods. He does not leave. He is still there 2 hours later when she finally stops rewriting the list. He has not spoken again except to answer the 2 questions she asked. He has not filled the silence or managed it. He has just been present in it, the way a building is present, not asking anything of the space, not making the space about him. She looks across the table at him. Garrett, she says. He looks up. The man from table 9. And the others. She pauses. Did you find out who they were? Ray holds her gaze for a moment. Yes. And? Garrett works in commercial real estate, he says. His 2 largest clients received some unfavorable information about his professional conduct this week. The kind that takes a long time to walk back. He pauses. The youngest one, the one who stood up, his firm's compliance department received an anonymous tip that is going to require his full attention for the foreseeable future. She is quiet. Nothing physical, he says. Nothing that can't be traced to their own histories. I don't create problems. I find the ones that already exist and make sure they arrive at the right time. She nods once. She does not thank him. She does not perform relief. She just receives it, the way she receives all accurate information, completely and without decoration. Go home, she says. I'm all right. He stands. He picks up his jacket. At the door he stops. Tomorrow morning, he says. After the DA's office. Tell me how it goes. It is not a question. Yeah, she says. The motion is denied on a Friday. Detective Reeves calls at 11:17. She is in the back hallway of the restaurant, coat still on, not yet changed, and he says the word denied and she says thank you and hangs up and stands there with the coat on, and the hallway smelling of industrial cleaner, and the kitchen beginning its prep noise behind the wall. She does not cry. She had thought she might. She had braced for both outcomes all week, the relief of the denial and the collapse of the other thing, and when the denial arrives it is quieter than expected. Not relief exactly. The specific feeling of a door closing that you have been bracing against for 7 months, your body so used to the brace that even after the door closes you stay in the position for a moment, waiting. It doesn't open. She changes into her uniform. She ties her apron. She calls Ray. He picks up on the second ring. Denied, she says. A pause. Good. Not congratulations. Not celebration. Just the plain confirmation of an outcome he had told her was coming, acknowledged now that it has arrived. I have a shift, she says. I know, he says. I'll see you at 7. She walks onto the floor. The dinner service runs without incident. She works her section. She moves through the room with the economy she always brings, and something is different tonight, not dramatically, not in any way Sellers would notice or the other servers could name. A half degree of looseness in her shoulders that has not been there in a long time. Not happiness exactly. The physical sensation of something that has been held very tightly for a very long time being allowed to ease. Ray arrives at 7:10. Corner table. Water. The stillness. She finishes her 6:45 table and crosses the floor and sits across from him without asking, the way she has been sitting across from him without asking for 2 weeks now, and the fact that it is already a pattern is something she notices and does not yet have a word for. You already knew, she says. I have a person at the courthouse, he says. She looks at him. A person at the courthouse who monitors my case. Yes. She holds that. Not with suspicion, with the clear-eyed accounting she brings to all information that matters. Ray Khan has a contact who told him a motion in her personal legal case was denied before she had a chance to call him herself. She decides how she feels about this. Don't do that without telling me, she says. If you're going to have someone watching something that belongs to my life, I need to know about it first. He holds her gaze. That's fair, he says. Not defensive. Not an explanation. The plain acceptance of a boundary, received and set down without drama. She nods once. It is handled. I want to ask you something, she says. All right. What is this? She gestures between them. I need you to tell me plainly, because I have a history of reading rooms wrong and I'm not going to do that again. He is quiet for a moment. Not avoiding the question, arriving at the answer at the right speed. I don't know what to call it, he says. But I know I came back to this restaurant 4 times in 2 weeks. And I don't do things 4 times without knowing why. Why then? She says. He looks at her. The first night, when you caught yourself, you stood straight immediately. 1 second. And then you went back to the table and you finished the exchange and you did not need anyone to have seen it. You were not performing for anyone. You were not looking for acknowledgement. He stops. Looks at his glass. Then back at her. I have been in rooms with people who do hard things their whole lives. I have never seen someone do something that specific and require nothing for having done it. I came back because I wanted to know who you are when there is nothing left to manage. She is quiet. I still want to know, he says. She looks at him across the table. This man who is the most dangerous person in this city and the most careful person she has sat across from in longer than she can calculate, who funds shelters quietly and moves his mother to safe cities and waited 45 minutes in an empty restaurant because he chose to, who holds her information without pulling at it, and accepts her boundaries without negotiating them. She thinks about what it costs to let something be real before you are certain of it. She thinks about 5 years of certainty that cost her everything. I work Tuesdays and Thursdays, she says. And closing Saturdays. Something settles in his face. Not relief, recognition. The specific look of a man who was waiting to find out which direction something was going and has found out. I know your schedule, he says. I know you know, she says. She stands. She has tables to run and a shift to finish and a body making its second trimester adjustments, and a list on her kitchen table that she is getting through, one decision at a time, in the right order. She picks up her pad. Same time Thursday, she says. She goes back to her section. Her shoulders carry that half-degree of ease. Her chin is level. She moves through the room the way she moved out of the DA's office this morning, like someone who knows where she is going and has decided to mean it. She doesn't look back at the corner. She doesn't need to. Not every story announces itself while it's happening. Some of them you only understand looking back. The exact moment something shifted, the specific second a door opened that you didn't know you'd been standing in front of. She will come back to this one. She already knows she will. If this story moved you, if you felt that specific thing that happens when you watch someone choose to stop disappearing, stop making themselves the right shape for everyone else's world, and just stand exactly as they are, drop it in the comments. Tell me where you were when it hit you. And if you're new here, this channel exists for stories like this one. Stories that don't let you look away. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. The next story is going to be harder to watch. And harder to forget.